You can dream big and you can be fearless, and 50% chance you may actually fail at something. But then that failure can't define you. At whatever stage we are, what we are trying to do seems very impossible. If Gen Z is going to be like a 300 million shopping base in the country and 100 million of them are already buying fashion online today, in that endeavor we almost disrupted our own platform.
Welcome to Visionaries of India, presented to you by the Samsung Galaxy Book5 Series. Now, while apps and algorithms have transformed how we discover fashion, it's the human vision behind them that truly matters. Meet Nandita Sinha, the CEO at Myntra, a leader who understands that behind every click, every purchase, every moment of style discovery, there's one person seeking connection and confidence. She's not just building tech, she's building an experience that puts people first. To keep up with leaders like Nandita, my research also has to keep pace. With Samsung Galaxy Book5 Pro 360 AI Select feature, I can easily find anything by just circling around it, so every insight is ready for our conversation, even as I move around. Hi, Nandita.
Hi, Sonia. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
It's such a lovely office that you have. Actually, this is my first time here at the Myntra office, and it has blown my mind.
No, we love showing off our office because I think it is really a reflection of who we are as a company and what do we really stand for. If you look at that wall, that is really our employee value proposition, hand painted by the employees. And if you just read what's written, be the trend, be Myntra. And that's really where this entire office kind of derives its energy from. And if you look around, you'll see, and as we walk through the office, you'll see that
it's got a very young energy.
Yeah, young, vibrant energy. And I think a lot of the three pillars of how we have kind of built this space is around fashion. So everything that we do reflects fashion, and I'll talk about it. Technology, because we really are about democratizing fashion through technology, and sustainability, because I think as you look at being young and vibrant, there are spaces to enjoy, there are spaces to chill out, there are spaces to be yourself. But sustainability also becomes an important pillar.
Absolutely.
But these are the three things around which the office is built. It's a very young, very vibrant space.
Yeah, it's very colorful, and I'm sure people love to come to work here. Yeah.
But
I want to ask you, what exactly is that?
So I think, when we were building this space and we thought, how does fashion really come alive? One of the things that we did was these two walls. So this really signifies the needle and the thread, and you have the spools over there, and so this is really the starting of fashion.
Apparel and fashion.
Starting of fashion, and that's what this space is. And of course we've used this space for even things like employee fashion shows, etc. So I think it really comes alive during different things we do. When we do different announcements, we all come here together. We just do like an impromptu get together.
It's so interesting to me because I'm sure all of us, and even the people watching, have at some point in their lives been a Myntra user.
Yeah.
You have that first mover advantage, right? And now you're growing at a very fast pace. But it's a very different world now compared to what it was, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How are you staying relevant through this competition?
I think for us, it has always been about, like I always say this, that e-commerce is about selection, price and convenience. But fashion e-commerce also has this leg of inspiration. So how do you really inspire people? How do you build aspiration? Whether it reflects itself in what Gen Z today is. So how does your selection really transform itself to be relevant to the Gen Z audience?
Correct.
So I think just recognizing that speed is becoming such a way of life that 2 days is no longer the best speed that you can offer. You have to actually offer the 30-minute speed, which is what we do with them now.
Absolutely.
So I think just that constant movement, evolution.
Being agile, I guess. Yeah. So, this is going to be a digital marketing class, I feel, a master class. But as you've given me a lot of points to ponder over, but as we do that, you want to take us through some of the things in your office, because I'm very excited to see how you've sort of Gen Z-fied the entire space.
Yeah. This one is a Garhwali art handloom, loom, because I think it reflected fashion, it reflected handloom, which is what India is, but it also reflected that the work is never done. We are all work in progress. So I think that's what this reflects, and that's what we brought it together.
As a leader, as someone who perhaps is constantly trying to up their game, right? How do you sort of stay ahead of the game at every point in time?
I think, first of all, being very close to the consumers and to our brand partners. We do a lot of listening with our consumers through the calls that they make to us, through various different mechanisms that we put together to say, what is the consumer really thinking about? How is the consumer evolving? What is important to them? What are they really finding which is lacking on our platform to that extent? I think one is that. Then our sellers, our partner ecosystem, our brand ecosystem, they keep telling us what's really happening. And finally, I think using technology, because fashion is really about what is in trend and how do you use technology to identify what is in trend and then quickly make it available, discoverable on your platform is probably a large part of what we do. Okay. So I think our investments early on in the international brands was something which is now kind of giving us the benefit as we go ahead. The second, I would say, is really the D2C brand ecosystem. I think 2 years back, we identified that the brand ecosystem is changing and a lot of digital first brands have been born in COVID. They are getting a lot of consumer love, but they don't have a platform to really scale and maximize their potential. So how do we again use the Myntra platform? So we created Myntra Rising Stars, which is a program for for the D2C brands to scale up. The third, I would say, our foray into forward, which was, again, what is Gen Z going to really shop for and how should a fashion platform look like for Gen Z? I would say that in that endeavor, we almost disrupted our own platform. We said that, if Gen Z is going to be like a 300 million shopping base in the country and 100 million of them are already buying fashion online today, then I need to be able to be a platform which is able to cater to their needs. So whether it is their needs of trends, whether it is their need of more experiential buying experiences, personalization, more influencer-led discovery, more video-led discovery, how do I disrupt my own platform to be able to actually bring that alive for the consumer? And I think the latest has been with Now to say that, while everybody is asking us that, how does fashion fit into this quick commerce game? As we speak, we are scaling every day. Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, these are big cities where we are really putting the pedal and growing, and we are seeing a lot of good results. So I think that's where we build the supply pipes as well as the inspiration pipes, and that's where things actually come together.
So, I want to talk about how India is changing in terms of consumption, right? Yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, a girl sitting in, say, a small village in Ranchi had very different access to a girl sitting in Mumbai. Yeah. Now, all of us have the same access. What does this mean for marketeers?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that there is no aspiration gap anymore. So actually, if I were to just go back a little bit, even behind the 10 years, I would say 20 years back, there was even not enough inspiration that consumers had and aspiration that they could build, because there was still fashion dispersion was happening from the runway to the, to Bollywood, to the big cities, and then it would kind of trickle down to the small cities. But with social media, all of that actually opened up. So everybody is exposed to the same kind of inspiration. And therefore, I think the biggest thing that has happened is that aspiration has no gap between the big and the small cities. But if you look at the physical retail access, there is still a gap that exists. And that's where a platform like Myntra will come in and say that, online, I am able to fulfill the gap exactly seamlessly between the big and the small cities, because what is available in Bangalore is also available in a small village near Ranchi. And what we see is that
but does it become tougher to then penetrate those markets because of competition as well?
I wouldn't say tougher. In fact, I would say that some of the big wins that we see in early trend setters is also coming from the small town. So if you take a serum, if you take a blush, if you take K-beauty, everything like hair serum, everything is as popular in the small cities as they are in the big cities. And the price point, people are expecting it across the price point. Nobody expects it only luxury brands will give me K-beauty, but I want the K-beauty cleansing balm at a price point that I can access. Second is, if you take international brands, 45% of our international brand customers are coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, because truly there is an access gap. There is no physical outlet which can also fulfill that gap for them.
Okay, Nandita, before we go ahead and see the rest of the office, I would like to give a challenge to your senior team members.
Absolutely wonderful.
Okay, let's go. This is the Productivity Playbook powered by the Samsung Galaxy Book5 Series. So, innovation at Myntra means never settling for yesterday's success. What I've done is I've created some real-world challenges tailor-made for the entire Myntra team sitting here, and they'll be taking them on using the AI-powered Copilot plus PCs, the Samsung Galaxy Book5 Series. So, thank you guys for joining me. I'll quickly share them on the Samsung Notes. So, I'm going to share the following problem statements, and Deepak, first to you, since you handle the beauty and the personal care business. Beauty is no longer just about the product, right? We all know that. It's about personal rituals, trusted advice, instant gratification for all of us. The question is, how can Myntra become India's most trusted beauty destination where every customer finds not just what they need, but what's right for them? Okay, Harish, my next question is to you, and you run the Gen Z platform forward, which is, I think, one of the toughest things to do today. So the question to you is this: how do you create a Gen Z fashion ecosystem for Bharat that delivers constant freshness without compromising on relevance or on affordability? Okay, next question to you, Ankit, for M Now, which is the 30-minute express delivery. Imagine a system that knows which products will be in demand in which area, how much to stock, and how to get it delivered on time without any waste or chaos. A tough problem statement, but I'm sure you'll come up with a solution. Let's see what Nandita thinks about it once you share these answers with her on the Samsung Notes.
So this is the first floor of the office, and I think, as you can see, what we believe in is that work happens, of course, when you're at your desk and you're really jamming and you're working, but it also happens when you take a little time off and you're playing. Yeah. So, you know, this game area which
gaming
is there,
zone.
the gaming zone, and also like a little bit of a breakout zone for people to just catch up, do a little bit of thinking. So I think just building all of these different pieces together.
I love it. I love this entire setup. It's very like, it's also for creativity, to get your creativity out, right?
So it's not only about being very ruthless about a few things, but also being thoughtful.
Correct.
So I think how do you bring both of those together is what the two spaces allow you to do in some way. So I think that's what this space is about. And I think just carrying this vibe of being a workplace that is very performance oriented, that is very driven, which loves to be on the top, but also comes together in a way which is very familiar. So I think that bringing those two things together is what the workplace stands for.
You know, Nandita, as a leader, I noticed that you're very, very progressive in your thoughts, right? I mean, it's not just about your workplace. I remember you did an interview, I think a couple of months ago, where you also talked about how women or mothers should keep a cutoff point, right? And because you have to prioritize your family and your work, and that's the only way you can have a sustainably long career, right? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, because it's very rare, and there's this huge generation gap between Gen Z and millennials or boomers, and that's where a lot of friction comes in the workplace. How do you sort of solve that?
Again, I think listening is very important, and also just starting off with a point of view that what is my truth is not everybody else's truth. So how I was able to kind of manage my career progression through the different, phases of being a mother, of having maybe aging parents, all of those are, or being a person, like who I am as a person. I mean, that reality may be different. It may be a few years ago. But what I remember working for me is the fact that I have a workplace which understands that I am going through a certain phase of my life, and in this phase of my life I need a certain nurturing, I need a certain scaffolding, and how does the organization systemically build it, but also I think in conversation be very open about it and ensure that people around you are able to then support you. So whether it is about, I mean, a simple thing like if there is a new mother who's coming back to work, does the creche kind of help her and scaffold her? And so I think just ensuring that there are life stages, how do you nurture for those life stages, be open about that conversation, because to say that, this is my truth and this is how the truth of the entire org should be does not hold true. So having leaders who've had different experiences come together and being able to blend their diversity together in thought, which makes you more creative. So we have 40% of our workforce is women. Even our leadership teams are, between 35 and 40% of them are women. So just having different women, having different leadership styles, being good role models for the other younger women who are coming up, I think that itself just makes the job much more easier. But essentially, diverse life stages, diverse points of view, diverse leadership styles require a very different systemic scaffolding, building of pillars, which you can then plug in throughout your journey for employees.
100%, 100%. You want to take us through some more parts of the office?
So this is another part of our office, is the 5th floor, and I think we thought it's interesting if you could see how sustainability and fashion really come together on these two walls. So this is really built by footwear soles. The wastes of those kind of create this really cool graphic art, and it's something which is really interesting when you see it for the first time.
But can you tell me a little more about sustainability and fashion? Because it's like an oxymoron sometimes, right?
So we have been recognized for the work that we've done in building a sustainable workplace over the last few years. We have like solar panels which are powering this office. So 12% of our energy is actually generated from solar panels. We also, from our delivery perspective, right, our vehicles are EV vehicles, our warehouses have solar panels. So I think really incorporating some of these aspects into the end-to-end supply chain of fashion. How do we really help consumers discover sustainable materials on the platform, etc. So I think that's the other work that we do on the demand side of it.
On the customer
Side of it. But I think that's how we build it. And of course, there is a long way for all of us as an industry to go, and we'll keep pushing on that agenda. Again, listening to consumers, what do they want? How do they see this journey?
Because the younger audience is a bit more
conscious,
ethical. They want ethically sourced. What exactly?
This is really the scrapes of material that, cloth, which is there, and it's a little bit of a rug. Again, I think just fashion and sustainability coming together to be able to, create this piece of art.
Wow. Yeah. Very interesting, I must say. So tell me, when you talk about fashion, and since you are in the industry and you have been a first mover in this space, what do you see as the large trends in fashion e-commerce over the next couple of years?
I think if I take the few trends that are going to be very important in fashion e-commerce, I think first of all, trends are going to become very important, right? So people are discovering trends we've been talking about how the internet and social media is really changing discovery. So definitely the discovery funnel of fashion is changing completely. So whether it is on social media, but even on apps like ourselves, people want to discover fashion through influencers, through people who look like them, through videos, and not really through editorial.
Relatable fashion.
Yeah, not really through very highly produced, high production content, or editorial content. They want to look at things which are very relatable, very real, very video first, very influencer first. And I think therefore that is one discovery channel that is happening. And I think the other thing which is on the other extreme of it is really to understand that how hyper-personalization and the infinite aisle of e-commerce is coming together through this shopping, which is through infinite feeds. So I think these two are big pillars of discovery, which are completely changing. And therefore, they are looking for platforms like ourselves and brands and sellers who can fulfill these trends for them very quickly to what is happening in the global arena. So they don't want to wait at all.
Wow. So you were telling me about hyper-personalization, right? Yeah. And I do know that you use a lot of AI tools to help people personalize their shopping experience. So I have the Samsung phone here, and I have the Myntra app. So I want you to show me exactly how I can hyper-personalize, a shopping experience for myself.
So I think as you look at the homepage itself, right, this homepage is very different from what I would see as a consumer. Like my app would be very centered to what I have been exploring and what is available for me. But for you, it may be very different as a consumer. This is Shop with Maya, which is how do you really look at a conversational commerce assistant which is powered by ChatGPT. So you could ask any questions and you can keep getting information, and then you can keep real time really, building on top of it. So find me stylish blazers, and then
I think it already knows what I want.
So, this is one area of how personalization works. But also if you look at this, for example, this is where our video commerce capability really comes into play, because we're saying that how do we get more and more video content, influencer content, and this is also creator content, big creators coming together, and then you actually have products which are
that they're very
varying or similar products, right? So this and this, you could actually then go here and
immediately shop off the
immediately
video.
you can shop off the video. So again, something like this. So this is where the content piece really comes into place. We've been pioneers of social commerce in the country. So I think Myntra Minis, but now Glam Clan, which is our users becoming influencers, and Glam Stream is what you saw, where a lot of the content which is relevant to users, whether it is, podcasts or creators or even films, how do we bring together that content and help people shop through that content? So really make shoppable content come alive. And I think that's the future of apps, where apps will become apps of one, in a sense that everybody has an app which is almost personally
cater to their needs.
So I think a lot of things will evolve, but I think where we are right now, definitely creating this app for each one of you is what the personalization journey is about.
This room is exactly for what purpose? Like, who is this room for?
This is the room for actually anyone who wants to come and get inspired by fashion, but also the thinkers, the ideators, the ones who are really thinking of how to incorporate fashion into the journey of the consumer, and how to also help sellers and brands really incorporate the latest fashion into their collections, etc. So this room is really for inspiration, but not just for us as a platform, but also for our brands and seller partners that we work with.
Okay, that's great. So I have many more questions for you,
Yeah.
but now let's go and sit somewhere
Yes.
and maybe have a cup of tea together.
Yes.
Okay, so finally we sat down.
Yes.
So these were some problem statements that, we gave your team, and these are some answers that they've given. Do you want to go through them?
Yeah, let me have a look. I think it really aligns with how I think of the business and how I think we should build the solutions for whether it is M Now, whether it is forward or beauty.
Yeah, I think the problem that I've been presented with is complex, because you have to look at how the customer demographics are really playing out in a particular demand area. In our fashion world, the trends change so fast that the entire inventory changeover has to happen very, very quickly, right? So you need systems which are much more agile. Now you also need to be able to do it ahead of time, right? So you need to be predictive about it. It has to be done in a matter of 30 minutes or less in some cases. So in that case, you have to use a lot of machine learning algo to be able to choose the right store to serve that order from. Once you have chosen the right store, you have to ensure that you have the rider density available to be able to serve that order in 30 minutes. You have to also ensure that the rider does not travel too much distance at the end of the day. You have to reduce the empty miles. No one has probably solved it at scale, but with the help of technology, I'm sure that we can come out with flying colors on this one as well.
We had a round of how we will solve the problems, and if I were to pick up M Now, for example, I think we really tried to ask a question around how do you build for this particular geography, how do you really create demand, how do you create supply for serving fashion in a quick commerce way, which is very local in its nature. So I think what are the three pillars which will help us is the fact that how do you first of all predict what sells in that particular pin code, in that geography, and what sells is really how do you look at your current data and also look at what's happening in the ecosystem and what is topical. So I think that is one thing. Second thing is this is a really very heavy execution business. So how do you build technology to be able to fulfill that supply in a very real-time manner, which is almost like a daily replenishment, to be able to fulfill your everyday demands. And finally, I would say, how do you create a service ecosystem, which is around the riders, which is around the dark stores, which ensure that you're constantly helping the consumers get the products in the time that you promise.
Okay.
If you take beauty, I think the problem that the team solved was how do you create a differentiated journey for the customers, as you're building beauty on the platform.
So in today's times, we can take explicit information from the user on the platform regarding their skin tone, their skin type, their hair type, what are the concerns, what are the benefits they are looking out for. And we can retain that context across all the possible future journeys that they will have on the platform. For example, if you have told your concern as, let's say, dry skin, so whatever products are catering to that particular concern can come out highlighted saying that this is recommended for your user profile. So the entire regime will be curated to that problem. And one good part is that you don't have to basically come and tell the platform again and again that this is what I'm looking for. I'll retain that, and across all your journeys will serve you what you exactly want.
And I think the approach that we've taken and the team discussed was, it is about creating a personalized journey for every consumer, which is based on the needs of that consumer. So whether it is really analyzing who you are as a consumer, what are your concerns, and creating your merchandising, creating your landing pages, which are very, very personalized to you. Your search journey also then takes you through keeping the context that, the context of me is that maybe I have curly hair. So my context is that. So how do I ensure that, that context is preserved when I'm searching for a shampoo? And finally, when you are helping me try out samples, how do those samples also get personalized to me as a consumer and what my needs are? I think the third problem, I think the answer in Forward is about how do you use technology to enable three pillars. One is discovery of trends. So what are trends really? Like today, what is happening? What is going to happen in the next 2 weeks? How do you create that flywheel? The second,
And how do you stay on top of it?
How you stay on top of it. How do you then enable the ecosystem to help produce trends at that speed? So whether it is your sellers, your brand partners, how do you give them the intelligence that they can then stay on top of it by producing trends in a very short period of time? And finally, personalization, because what I like and what is trendy to me may not be trendy to you.
Correct.
So how do you use that information of browsing to enable that trend discovery for the consumer?
So in order to be able to sort of serve the Gen Z, the first thing that we need to do is to be on top of the trend ecosystem. We need to build a diverse supply ecosystem with a wide array of partners. Myntra can provide in terms of design intelligence, raw material intelligence, fit intelligence, to be able to quickly turn around products based on the trend in a very short span of time with very short lead times. Then it is about creating a personalized platform which is able to surface the right set of trends to the right audience, so that every customer feels that they're getting the product that they really want. I think that's how you solve the Gen Z conundrum.
So I think these are the three levers that Forward uses to be able to personalize trend discovery and enablement for the Gen Z consumer.
So now that you've seen all the answers, let's call the senior directors of the respective teams.
Yes.
So we can get a quick picture with them.
Yeah.
So this was the Productivity Playbook powered by the Samsung Galaxy Book5 Series. But the one question that I wanted to ask you is about beauty.
Yeah.
And at a time when the country itself is seeing a slowdown in consumption, beauty and personal care is a space which is very aggressive, very competitive. And you're competing with the Nykas, Tiras of the world. How do you stay relevant in such a situation?
Yeah, so I think one is, I would say that beauty as a market is actually the one market which is really, really growing. And also because I feel of how the market is really, if you look at the market 15 years back, it was really only a 2-product market, kajal, lipstick. And I think that what we realized is that in our mission of making lifestyle more democratic, giving access to everyone, we realized that fashion no longer is the only definition of lifestyle, it is beauty also. And therefore this felt like a very natural extension of who we are as a platform. We have tools which are making it easier for consumers to try on new formats of beauty, which they have not done before. And that is what our tech prowess really allows us to. And I think that consumers also shop for fashion and beauty together.
Simultaneously.
So I think that is giving us the advantage, which really helps us differentiate.
Everything on one app rather than going to different apps.
Yeah. So I think those are the things which help us differentiate, and that is why we have been growing almost 3 times of the market over the last 3 to 4 years.
So you said you're growing faster than the industry and your peers.
Yeah.
How big is the BPC industry right now, and what is your market share at the moment? How much do you want to grow it to, say, over the next 3 to 5 years?
So BPC is around $20 billion industry overall, and
globally
in India. So it's a very, very large industry, growing very fast. Ecom is really driving the lion's share of that growth, and platforms like ourselves, which are in a very sweet spot of having a very large consumer base. This consumer base is much, much larger than any vertical platform, but has the shopping experience which is very specialized for beauty. Those are the two things which make us actually differentiated. I think using Now again as a way of delivering speed to the consumer is also very important.
And M now brings me to another question, right? I mean, how the user behavior has changed in the last 2 years. People are now addicted to quick commerce. And you have an advantage there because you're into apparel quick commerce. There's no real competition in this space at the moment. But do you think you can scale this up in a big way?
I think we have the right to win and scale the quick commerce journey for fashion in the country, because I think we understand fashion and we understand what is really important to the consumer at a pin code level almost, to say that, this is a consumer who's sitting in this area of Bangalore, for example. What is really the merchandise that this consumer has been buying? And therefore, how can I really tap into that knowledge and tap into the knowledge to help sellers and our brand partners bring this merchandise into the dark stores that we have. And I think that's what makes us much ahead in the game in terms of saying that we really know what sells in these areas and these geographies at a scale which is unparalleled.
So, Nandita, your journey has been, it's been so inspiring because, I mean, of course, before Myntra, you were with Flipkart and you had so much experience in this entire consumer FMCG space, right? What has been the hardest part of building this entire e-commerce space?
I think not the hardest part, I would say, but I think the most important part has been the ingredient to really dream big. Because when at whatever stage we are, what we are trying to do seems very impossible. So whether it is, thinking of building M now and building quick commerce for fashion, there are so many voices which will tell you that it's not possible, it's not going to happen, and we will learn and we will grow and we will do all the right things. But there are so many people who will tell you that you are venturing on something which seems very impossible. So I think just to kind of have that ambition to say that no, it is possible, make it possible. And sometimes also knowing that it is so difficult that you may actually end up not fulfilling you may failing. So I think that for me is the single biggest ingredient that is there.
So, you spoke about one concept, escape velocity, and it really stays with me because this is a concept a lot of leaders talk about, right? Just rising above mediocrity, rising up, cutting out all the noise and aiming for greatness, right? What are those traits that you can cultivate that will help you achieve escape velocity in whatever field you are?
I'll say again, fearlessness. Like you have to be a little fearless. You have to have a little bit of an attitude which allows you to take on a risk which may seem a little daunting, or take up a task which seems a little daunting, right? Because you can't achieve escape velocity or greatness unless you are dreaming and then being fearless about achieving that dream. So also not letting failure come in the way of who you are as a person, because you can dream big and you can be fearless, and there are chances if you're doing both of them, 50% chance you may actually fail at something.
Correct.
But then that failure can't define you. That is just something that you kind of get up, you analyze what happened, be very conscious of the fact that how it impacts you is probably the most. It doesn't impact anybody else around you. They don't think about you as much as you're thinking about yourself.
It's true.
And don't let that failure define you, and then again get up and then just keep moving ahead. So I think that's maybe one part of it. The second is really, I would say there is no substitute to hard work, to just showing up every day, to dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and cultivating that work ethic. Sometimes we take that for granted, but and sometimes also when you rise up the corporate ladder or anything, sometimes you feel, oh, I've done it, so it doesn't need it. But actually every day I'm reminded that there is always that thing where you have to go into the depth, you have to go into the detail, you need to know that everything is taken care of.
So one would assume, right? I mean, I speak to a lot of CEOs, business leaders, and one would always assume that, okay, you'll reach a pinnacle of success and then you'll, buy a yacht and go and relax somewhere on some island. But the more successful people get, the harder they work, the more they show up, the earlier they come to work. So, one would think that where does it end there?
I think it's about if you're having fun at it or not. So I don't think you can do this for as long as we all are going to do it, hopefully, and we've been doing it, if you're not having fun at it. So if you're having fun at it, actually the problem and the opportunity becomes so exciting that you then want to kind of spend more time at it. And also I think the team that you build, I think, the point that you said, how do you actually achieve escape velocity? If you were to do like a mathematical correlation, you will see it happens when your team is good. So the more good team people you add, the more fuel you're adding for that rocket ship to achieve. And it's almost like a step jump. One good team takes you to the next step. The other good team takes you to the next step. So I think that team really builds it for you. And showing up is not just for yourself, it's also for the team. So I think that's probably, at the heart of it.
It was lovely speaking to you, Nandita. But I have, one last question. For people who are watching, right? There are a lot of young people watching, a lot of young people getting into the workforce. For someone who's looking to build for India now, what are the white spaces according to you? Because you've been in this digital space for so long.
India has a lot of white spaces. Internet was a big enabler a few, I would say a decade and a half back. That was the enabler that was really changing the way the world was behaving, the way commerce was going to happen, the way transactions were going to happen. I think the two, the formula that I would give is to say that look at what is the enabler today and what is a problem which feels very unsolved for or very inefficiently solved for, and use that enabler to, really solve that problem. And today's enabler is probably generative AI. That, it really is making building businesses so much simpler. It is making problems that you never thought you could solve.
It's making reach the customer so much easier.
It is actually your ability to achieve scale is so much easier because you don't need to replicate it, in physically. Or you have so much learning that you can actually pick up from and then kind of create a solution. So I think that is the enabling layer today. And then you have to juxtapose it against problems which India has not solved. So whether, I can take a problem in our world, which is about, say, monetizing the creator economy, for example, that could be like one problem which you could then look at the enabling layer and say that how does this enabling layer remove the one inefficiency which allows you to get to
monetize in a large
and again escape velocity. So there are so many white spaces in India. In fashion, like I said, how do you address this need to be always on trend and use AI to predict trends, to generate trends. So I think there are so many white spaces. You just have to pick up the enabler and the space that excites you, the problem that excites you, and what is the inefficiency you remove from that enabler.
Nice. So thank you so much for joining us on the Visionaries of India, and all the best.
Thank you so
And I'm sure Myntra will be much larger the next time we meet.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a lovely conversation, and I hope that everyone finds it useful and fun.
I'm sure they will.